Nobody move.
Nobody gets hurt.
I'm Nick G.
I'm Mike D.
And this is Good Cop, Bad Cop. This episode of the Good Cop, Bad Cop podcast is proudly presented by the New Solutions Network. Where powerful stories ignite transformative change, we dive deep to reveal unfiltered truth shaped by grit and resilience, illuminating even the darkest corners. Have a story to share or want to sponsor a show that drives real impact? Reach out to the New Solutions Network. This isn't just media, it's a movement. Visit us at newsolutionsnetwork.com. I'd like to thank our sponsors today, Pop McCann Whiskey, smoothest drink in the land. Grab your bottle today at popsmccannwhiskey.com. Also like to thank Friends of Martina White. Visit votemartina.com for more information about the work Martina has been doing as state representative of Pennsylvania. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Beyond Creative. If you're ready to take your online presence to the next level, visit beyondocreative.com or call 267-362-WEB1 to discuss your project. And our title sponsor, AR Law, arjusticenow.com. We fight so you don't have to. Adams Renzi Law. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Morrow Flooring, hardwood, laminate, vinyl, tile, and carpet. You get military and first responders discount. That is Morrow Flooring. You can go to goodcopbadcoppodcast.com. Click on his link for more details. All right, welcome to a great show today. This is Good Cop, Bad Cop, raw and unfiltered. I'm Nick G.
And I'm Mike D. And today we're going to discuss the case of a Boston cop found dead in a snowbank. Is his girlfriend, Karen Reed, as the defense claims, a scapegoat, or is she a killer?
Sounds pretty intriguing. I know it has gripped the nation.
Well, we're going to go over the key evidence in the case of a retrial, and then we're going to see, we're going to be neutral about it. Let's see what the other people in the audience think, and have them join us.
Yeah, are we going to be neutral about it?
Well, I think everybody has an opinion already.
Yeah.
In fact, I think that in some cases, your opinion has changed 2 or 3 times now.
More than that. I keep flip-flopping back and forth.
Yeah.
So what are some of the evidences that we have here that's been shown in the first trial?
Well, you have injuries on the male, the male decedent.
And that's John O'Keefe.
John
correct?
O'Keefe.
The
That's
Boston
correct.
police officer.
Was he an actual Boston police?
Yes, he was Boston police officer for over 15 years.
Okay, so it wasn't a local community. It was the Boston PD.
Right. So he's in the Boston Police Department.
Because there's other departments involved in this.
And his the accuser would be Karen Reed.
A very lovely-looking woman, to say the least, right?
Yeah. So she's gripped the nation. To me, she's an unlikable person. I watched the episodes and the TV shows, and I really don't have that much compassion for her, just the way she portrayed herself. But apparently she's a local rock star in the area, which is kind of gross. She's a homicide suspect, and it's been a circus up there. And it's really gripping the Canton area up in Massachusetts.
Yeah, well, one of the things that I've suspected from the outset, and we'll probably get into it and learn more, is, and I maybe it's just my own nature, I just believe that there was a lot of infidelity going on here in this case, and I believe that through the infidelity, some of these things took place. I know that you've done a deeper dive
Correct.
than I have. I had recently watched the they did a documentary series about this case on one of the channels.
A lot of channels.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Netflix or whatever. I don't know who hosted the entire.
Court TV had a few. Dateline, NBC.
Okay, so
Yes,
yeah.
It's been all over the news.
Yeah, so I did a deep dive for about a couple of days when I was in Florida, in Clearwater, and I went over some of the key things in the case, and some of the things, as an investigator, police knowledge, didn't make sense.
Right, didn't. So let's give the overview of what happened. So on January 28th of 2022, you have, which most cops do, a get together. They although it wasn't right after work, they met up at a local bar, which would be the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And we have a whole host of people that showed up here, and it's almost like Clue, the game Clue. We have a lot of suspects, but right now this is the trial of Karen Reed. So all these people were there, and we'll break down who was there and what party had what to do with this case as we go on. they leave the bar. They end up going back to another Boston, Massachusetts police officer. His last name would be Albert, Brian Albert. So they go back to his house, which is the after party. And what the prosecution is claiming, when Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, who are a couple and are together.
And they live in the proximity?
Yeah, they live, so like 20 or 30 minutes away. Yeah, I believe this is the first time they've ever been invited back to this house for an after party from the bar. And what the prosecution is claiming is when they showed up, there was some kind of altercation between Karen Reed and her boyfriend, which is the off-duty police officer, John O'Keefe.
Right.
And she reversed her vehicle, striking him, wounding him, and he, fell down and might hit his head on the sidewalk, and she took off and went home. And unbeknownst to the partygoers, he was left out in the cold, and he died of hypothermia and injuries received from
basically,
the car
he was rendered sort of semi-unconscious,
correct,
or injured beyond the ability to move. He lays in the snow, and they say hypothermia kills him.
Correct. So, important note that it is a blizzard. Because it's not like drinking and driving, going to the blizzard.
Oh, yeah, and cops do it all the time.
Best time.
That's the best time because no one's on the road but you, right?
Yeah.
So it's quite obvious.
So,
yes.
So we're going to have actually one of our sponsors, AR Law, Christy Adams, who is a bona fide badass attorney, will be coming on for her legal expert soon. And what the defense is trying to introduce is a third-party culprit defense. And what they're trying to say is it wasn't Karen Reed that killed John O'Keefe. It was actually the partygoers inside the house. So, and what you alluded to earlier, this could be a lover's triangle of some kind. But, this is where the defense is going. Karen Reed is innocent. She never struck him with a vehicle. And in fact, John O'Keefe was inside the house when he was murdered and his body dumped on the lawn. So,
yes. So I have to ask a couple of questions because I'm gonna play devil's advocate. Okay, so just before we get going with some of the facts that are or not been, that have been or not have been established, because many of them are controversial, right? So now, this woman, Karen Reed, gets in her SUV. Now, the SUV, it's an SUV, correct?
Correct. It's an SUV.
So she backs up to leave and go home, or whose home is her vehicle parked in?
Okay, so this
because we show a picture before of a driveway with two garbage pails around it.
All right, so let's dive right into this.
Yeah.
Can we put up? We'll put up the family tree of people involved. Photo 4, please. All right, so this is the players in our game of Clue.
Okay.
I hate to say game because a life was lost and it was an off-duty police officer.
Of course.
But this is a very gripping and intriguing case. It's divided. I'm not going to say the nation, but northeast half of the country, and the nation is gripped and entertained by this, which is it is what it is. It's the world we live in.
I don't see O'Keefe on the map here.
Okay, so besides O'Keefe and Karen Reed, these are the people. Brian Albert and Nicole Albert are married. They were at the bar that night.
Okay.
Jennifer McCabe, Matt McCabe. Jennifer is the sister to Nicole. They were at the bar that night. I believe Julie and Chris might have been at the bar. We can break that down when we get to the people in the house. Okay. So they were at the bar at the the Waterfall Bar and Grill in Canton.
Right.
And they invited people back to Brian Albert's house.
Correct. And so at Brian Albert's house, these are the people that are present eventually.
Correct. And in the background, you can see that's the actual house.
Right.
Can we go to photo 5, please? So these are the people inside the house when allegedly the murder took place, either in the house or when Karen Reed struck John O'Keefe outside. These
people have been established as being present in the home during this incident time period. Whether the incident took place in the home or not, we're not stating that fact.
Correct. So as we said, they were at the bar. They're invited back to the house. Now, the defense is saying that John O'Keefe did in fact enter the house, and Karen Reed left after he did not come out after 15 or 20 minutes. And there's
stop. Karen Reed didn't go in the house.
Correct. She stayed in the vehicle.
Okay. So the vehicle where was the vehicle parked?
In the driveway.
This person's driveway?
Correct. At the crime scene, Brian Albert's house, in the driveway.
So here's what you've established, according to me right now.
Correct.
Is that these people are in the home. They had met up at the bar, several of them. they now O'Keefe and his girlfriend Reed are in the driveway in their vehicle. O'Keefe decides to go in the home separate from her.
Correct.
So this already doesn't make any sense to me.
They said, I believe she said that the lights were out. It kind of looked like no one was home. He was going to go in to make sure the party was still going on. So he enters the home. This is per Karen Reed.
Right.
She waits 15, 20 minutes. He does not come out. She's calling him. He's not answering his phone. She leaves a bunch of nasty emails.
Emails or text messages?
Voicemails. Left a lot of nasty voicemails. A lot of cursing. You know, she was an angry, drunk woman at this time.
Like,
mad at her boyfriend.
Right.
You know,
for going into the home
and not coming out to get her. And after,
now, did you listen to any of them tapes? Were the tapes available? Those voice recordings?
Yes, voice recordings were there.
Did they seem sincere?
Oh, yeah, she was pissed. She was angry. She was effing him up and down.
Okay.
And then she went home, and I believe she said she left because he never came out. She was angry. She went home, called him a few more times, left a few, explicit voicemails again.
Right.
And she said she camped up on the couch because she was worried and wanted to make sure she was there to confront him when he came home.
Right.
She woke up around 4 a.m., realized he's not home yet, started calling. I believe she called Jen McCabe, and she gets a ride over to the house. I believe they might have picked up Jen McCabe on the way there, right? So they're driving there, and it's testimony from Jennifer McCabe that it's dark out. It's almost, it's like a little bit past 5 or 6 in the morning.
Right, not sure.
It's
snow,
blizzard conditions, and it's very dark. I don't believe there's many streetlights.
Probably few. Yeah.
So she said as soon as they pulled up, she says, there he is, and darts out of the car and runs right over to the body where it was. And she said,
who's there? Who he is? Who's he?
Karen Reed.
Oh, says there he is.
There he is. Points to a lump of snow, runs over, and finds John O'Keefe, unresponsive in the snow.
Right.
And she flips out, and I believe she was heard saying, I hit him 3 or 4 times, talking to herself. They call rescue. Rescue arrives, takes him to the hospital where he's pronounced deceased. So,
but she didn't hit him on the way in.
No, he's been left there now for 4 hours.
So she pulls up and notices this pile of snow that's larger than maybe the next pile next to it, and she decides to utter an utterance, right? There he is. I hit him.
Correct.
Not that she hit him just now.
Right. Meaning prior.
So that was
that's what it's taken as. Correct.
Okay, so it wasn't, I pulled up, oh my God, I hit him.
Yeah, no.
Okay.
No. They're in a separate vehicle. This is already, he's laying on a sidewalk. I know what you're getting. You're trying to establish when this happened.
Right,
when
because she was gone,
yes.
So that she must have had an inkling that she ran him over on the way out.
Correct. So again,
but that doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't make her guilty either. But again, totality of the circumstances, when you start adding all these circumstances up, that's how you get to a decision or a guilty or an innocent. And as we go through this case, you'll see that the legal term, totality of the circumstances.
Right.
There's a lot of them on both sides.
Right.
So it is suspicious that someone could pull up in the dark and point out a body under snow from a blizzard conditions that quick.
Yes.
Right? Again,
now, were there any other communications?
So now we get to the third-party culprit defense. So the defense is trying to say it was not Reed who hit him with the vehicle reversing in the tail light, and we could put this vehicle up. Can you put up photo 6, please? That is the rear, I believe, passenger side of her SUV where she allegedly struck John O'Keefe. And you can see the broken tail light, and the picture on the left is a piece of tail light found at the crime scene. And that gets interesting also. It's not Boston Police Department. It's a small police department next to Boston that's handling this. I believe the state police might have been involved. And
ATF?
No, there's an ATF agent involved.
Okay.
They weren't investigating it. And we're going to get to that also. That would be Brian Higgins. There's so many twists and trails.
So now you have the Boston PD cop who's essentially dead in the snowbank.
Every time you think she's guilty or she's innocent.
I know you called me up and said,
I had the text messages to prove it.
Guilt.
Yeah, she did it. She killed him.
She's no good, dirty,
20
such and such.
20 minutes later, she's innocent.
You said me. She's innocent. Yes.
She's innocent of
Yeah.
all charges.
Yes.
And
Let her go free.
It's crazy.
You wanted to date her, I think, after you saw
No,
her.
absolutely not.
You
Not my
sure?
speed. No,
Are you
I've had
sure?
enough of them already.
Oh, the
No
crazies?
more. Yes, no more.
So yeah, which brings us back to really some of the lascivious.
Lascivious. So yeah, as we're breaking it down here, what we're discussing. So we have a group of people.
The debauchery.
Yes, the debauchery. A group of people met at the bar, had drinks, and apparently they drank a lot. They had a lot of drinks.
Apparently.
She was
It's a snowstorm.
Yeah.
It's a blizzard. We call them,
Yeah.
the blizzard drinking.
Yeah, so that's the best day to go drinking at the local bar.
Because
Normally,
the cops ain't out looking for you because
normally you walk
they
here.
don't want to drive around the snow.
Now, normally we walked to our local watering hole,
Right.
so you didn't have to drive. That's the fun part of the blizzard.
Correct.
You walk to the local bar.
Right. Well, you load up the house. And you have a
or you
party,
load up the house,
like
right.
these guys did.
But they decided to drive and drink, and they drank a lot.
And then they wanted to continue because
Right, they
the
want to
blizzard.
continue, so they go back to the Albert's house, who is a police officer.
Quite a big house, obviously.
Yeah, it's a nice house.
Yeah, I mean,
Nice house in
it
the
looks like it's a
suburbs.
5-bedroom at least home.
Right, suburbs of
A lot
Boston.
of beds, a lot of couches, a lot of TV access rooms where you can to put a film. I wonder if they were filming any of this.
No, there's
Do you know what I'm talking
no,
about?
but we will get into that.
No, I mean like personal
No,
recreation
no.
filming.
It's not. It's not. I know you think it has to do with that. It's not. It wasn't. It wasn't a swingers party.
I'm thinking it was.
It wasn't. It wasn't. But we'll get into it. She was. To just jump right through the teaser, she was having some kind of relations with the ATF agent. That's it. It wasn't everybody. It was just the ATF agent who was.
He wasn't there yet.
He was inside the house.
And his
Dum
name.
dum dum.
And his name.
Brian Higgins.
Higgins was in the house.
Yes.
The ATF agent.
Yes. He showed up to the house party, and this is why Karen Reed did not go into the house, because her future side piece, who she's been flirting with, communicating through text messages, and possibly had a meetup. She did kiss him 2 weeks prior to this, was at the house party.
Oh.
Hence the reason why she didn't want to go in and why she left.
So he goes inside. I think he knew and confronted the guy.
Quite possibly. I mean, now
Now we're getting into
Yes.
theories, right?
Right.
Theories.
So for the
'Cause we
audience,
weren't there.
the audience at home that's watching this, I know we've been all over the place, and it's a lot. There's a lot for us to give you in just 1 hour.
Right.
But we're breaking down the first trial of Karen Reed, which resulted in a hung trial, and soon we'll have Christy Adams on to explain how and what a hung jury is, and how you move on from that, and also the third party culprit defense. So we'll have her explaining that to our audience and to us, because I'm
Right.
sure we can learn a little bit from it.
Right.
So now we're in the grips of the new trial. They just had opening arguments this last Tuesday, which I
Right.
believe was the 22nd. So what we're going to try to do here today is break this down in the simplest form as possible, which it is not simple. Like I said before, it is all over the place.
Yes.
Right? It's
Yeah.
very confusing.
I'm getting lost in the middle of this a little bit.
Very
And the
confusing.
reason is it's been a while since I went over the information that you've gone over, but I know the impression it left on me. So a lot of what I speak about the relationships in this case, it comes from my first instinctual, which is often wrong, but normally our first instinct leads us down the path that we want to investigate. And I'm still going back to the simple fact that there was a lot more involved in the relationships between the people involved, and you've sort of reiterated it and confirmed it by saying that Higgins, the ATF agent, was flirt texting her, and I believe at some point that the O'Keefe became aware
Correct.
that this was going on, and I believe
Quite possible.
that when he went in, I think that he went in to confront him because he knew that Higgins was in there, and that's what she's probably been withholding for back.
Correct.
That's what I
Correct.
believe.
And this is one of the big arguments on the defense. Again, they're introducing the third party. Not that she is innocent, but not only is she innocent, but this is how he died, and this is who murdered him. And when you get into, again, the totality of the circumstances of the evidence against the people in the home,
Right.
it's pretty damning. But then the evidence against her is also damning.
Yeah, but the thing is, it's not Higgins's home.
Correct. It's Brian Albert's home.
Now this is where the worm turns. As we go further into the case, why would Brian Alberts begin to do the things that we know he ends up doing in his home. I don't know if we want to get out that far before we speak to the hung jury attorney, but we can always chop this up if we need
Yeah,
to.
let's stop right here,
Okay.
and we're going to introduce our guest.
Okay.
Coming up, we have esteemed sponsor of ours and an incredible lawyer, Christy Adams from AR Law.
Wonderful.
Hello,
And a
Christy.
sponsor.
And our sponsor.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
Absolutely. It's a long time coming. So today we're discussing the Karen Reed homicide trial up in Massachusetts. And her first trial ended in a hung jury. So, what we wanted to do, hopefully we can get a little bit of an explanation for our viewers exactly what a hung jury is and what the process is thereafter.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you had asked me earlier whether or not I've ever actually had a hung jury. I have not. Typically, when the jurors cannot decide, the judge will go back to them and say, make another attempt. Sometimes the judge might ask some questions like, what's going on? But he'll always try to send the jury back and to make another attempt to come to a verdict.
And how many times will they do that till they actually give up and just say, okay, this is going to be a hung trial, hung jury?
I think it really depends upon the case. I mean, if you spend a long amount of time trying a case, it's very hard to send the jury home, and it's all that time is wasted.
Right.
It's
A lot of time and money.
Witnesses, money, people's time. So that they will try. I think that they will try hard.
Yeah, one of the things that I find significant about that is I don't ever want to put an innocent person in prison, right? Wouldn't you agree with that, Chris?
I agree, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
most important.
Yeah, sometimes I when I've seen or witnessed those things, and only on TV or
Right.
in high-profile trials, I always have this temperance of, great, if the person's guilty, it's usually a guy, but in this case it's a woman, right? If they're guilty, we want them to be punished. But I always have that trepidation of that one person that's not guilty. I don't want a judge forcing a guilty verdict. You know what I'm saying? Forcing a guilty verdict where if 6 people or 3 people or 8 people or 2 people say, I don't believe he's guilty. I hate to say this because there's a lot of people out there that may even feel differently than me on that. But I don't want to see one
people
person.
don't want to see innocent people go to jail, especially not because of time and money. You want to force someone to make a decision that they're not morally agreed upon. And in this case, there was a few notes and a few conversations with the judge with this trial, and I believe the fourth time they said, our moral compasses will not allow us to go any further. We are split, and these people will not budge, and it's pointless. So they end up declaring a hung jury.
Yeah, and I think that that's the right call by the judge, and because a hung jury, I mean, after that happens, the prosecution has to decide whether or not they want to retry the case again.
And in this case, they retried it, and they just had opening arguments a few days ago. So I know a lot of people are Facebook attorneys and law and order attorneys from TV.
Yes.
People will ask, well, what about double jeopardy? Does that imply with the hung jury? Can they use the same evidence again? Is there anything that's not allowed to be used in the second trial?
I don't see that as being double jeopardy because the person is not being prosecuted twice for the same crime. There was a hung jury, which means the jury did not make a decision, and they're going ahead and re-prosecuting the case.
Great. So
now, I have seen some situations where someone would be prosecuted in state court and was exonerated, and then somehow the feds pick it up, and then they try them on what seems to be the same charges. It seems like that would be double jeopardy.
yeah, I've seen that a lot. The feds are fun.
Yeah, right. Well, they say, well, there's 2 separate jurisdictions, so that's their response to that. Believe me, I know.
Mike knows all about the feds.
I intimately know that situation. Yes. By default.
Right.
Is that okay to say? By default.
All right, and our second question here would be the third-party culprit defense. What is that, and how does that get implemented by the defense?
I mean, when you're a criminal defense attorney, your job is to present potential alternative theories if that is, in fact, what possibly could have happened. I mean, you're doing your job by coming up with a third-party defense.
Is that something that's similarly used in these cases? Is this something that happens a lot?
Oh, I think it happens all the time. I mean, I think that you wouldn't be doing your job as a defense attorney
if you didn't point to alternatives. Huh?
Yeah. So,
I'm sorry. Yeah, point to alternatives. I mean, there might be alternative explanations. I mean, I know that you guys were examining this Karen Reed trial.
Yes.
And I have to say, I read a little bit up on it, and I thought that this whole dog bite explanation was very unusual.
we didn't get to that yet, but that's very good. Yes.
Very unusual. However, it appeared as though the defense called an expert witness that seemed to have intimate knowledge or had examined the body and was speaking about a possible dog attack.
Correct.
So, to me, at first glance, it seemed very unusual. But if there's some type of evidence that could substantiate that, by all means, I think that the defense has a duty to bring that out, and that's where you come with effective defense counsel.
So
as opposed to defense counsel that just sits there and does
right. To piggyback on that, he got rid of that dog a couple months after this incident. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what kind of dog it is.
German Shepherd.
Yep. German Shepherd. I mean, look, any dog could be lethal.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
I mean, the Chihuahua the Chihuahua isn't quite as lethal as the pit bull.
Give it enough time.
But if the Chihuahua's hungry enough, he can start at your knees. He can start at your knees and work his way up.
I don't know. Good things come in small packages.
That's what I've been told my entire life.
That's what I was hoping they would say.
All right, Christy, thank you so much.
Christy, thank you so much.
Is there you want to give yourself a plug? AR Law.
Yeah, I'm with Adams Renzi Law. I practice with Nick Renzi, who's from South Philadelphia. We're a real local, homegrown personal injury law firm. We take care of people who are injured in all types of accidents, trucking accidents, motor vehicle accidents, motorcycle accidents. We do a lot of workers' compensation injuries.
That's fantastic. So you can check them out at arlaw.com.
Yeah.
Thank you,
beautiful.
Christy.
Thanks, Christy. Thank your husband.
Right. Oh, absolutely was. Thank you. One of our contributors who comes on our show regularly, which would be
one of our sponsors.
Yeah, Dr. Netanya, our title sponsor.
Wachtell,
yeah. We got it right, Netanya. Dr. Netanya Wachtell.
Yeah.
You can check her out on Instagram. Go to newsolutionsnetwork.com. This is where you can go, you can get help marketing your ideas, your stories.
Connections.
Yeah, basically connections. What she does, she facilitates the person looking to get their story out there to where it has to go. She's been featured on Forbes, plenty of other, high-ranking magazines.
INC magazine.
Yeah. She's the real deal. And if you're looking to get your product, your ideas, or your stories connected with other people, you go to New Solutions Network, and you'll actually, you'll be dealing with Dr. Netanya herself, and she has
a staff, though,
she has a staff, but everything filters down to her, and she is a firecracker, one of the nicest people I know. Very intelligent, highly intelligent. In fact, we won't talk about what product it was, but a recent weight loss product that is taking the country by storm. She's responsible for the marketing on that, and that could be you. So if you want, check her out, newsolutionsnetwork.com.
Dr. Wachtell.
I'd like to thank our sponsors today, Martina White. Friends of Martina White can visit votemartina.com for more information about the work Martina's been doing as a state representative in Pennsylvania. And let me tell you, Mike, she's a big supporter of police. She backs the blue. She's a proven fighter for families, women, everybody.
Is she a patriot? Is she America first?
Absolutely. She encompasses, the American spirit for sure. We have a big population of listeners in Northeast Philadelphia, Southeast Pennsylvania, which would be her area. So you can check her out.
Has she been in? I'm not familiar with the Philly district. Is she new to the scene, or is she looking for re-election?
She'll be up for re-election in a couple years, but she's been around for a while. She has a proven track record.
Okay.
You can check her out. Her record really speaks for itself, especially when it comes to fighting for everyday citizens and backing the blue.
It's nice to have someone back in the blue. I mean, the officers are out there risking their lives every day, and with little pay and little appreciation in today's environment, it's been very difficult. And as you know, being a Philadelphia guy,
unfortunately, that's something that's not common. Should be. It used to be a time where both sides of the aisle agreed on law enforcement, and that's something that's completely lacking. But with Martina White, she steps up to the plate, always has our backs, and does what's right.
Great. Good luck with Martina.
Yeah, you can get more information at votemartina.com. I'd like to thank our title sponsor of the show, Adams Renzi Law, AR Law. They can be found at arjusticenow.com. And just to let you know, I know both of them personally. Christy, one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, total sweetheart, absolute pit bull in the courtroom. And Nick Renzi, he's a South Philadelphia guy, true and true, neighborhood man. He's for the people. He helps people out down in South Philly, all around Philadelphia.
Their office is in South Philly itself?
Yes, their office is in right around South Philly, Center City, right on the border.
Do they handle
there.
a lot of criminal cases?
They handle everything, absolutely.
Are they on call 24/7 for someone who might take a pinch somewhere?
Why, you might be taking a pinch?
Well, I mean, you never know. I mean, wherever you show up, you got to be ready.
Well, you can keep their card on you.
Well,
Go to their website and call them up.
Will they give me a deal since they're sponsors of the show?
You might get a percentage off. I'll have to talk to her.
Okay. Yeah.
If you used them a few years ago, you might have not have gotten 14 years.
Well, that's another story.
Another story for another time.
That's right.
Again, AR Law, check them out. arjusticenow.com. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Beyond.0. In today's world, your business is practically invisible if you're not online. With so many options for marketing your business, it's easy to get confused. That's where Beyond.0 Creative steps in. They have the expertise to help you with all of your marketing needs. Need a website that wows visitors? They'll build it. Want to reach more customers with Google Ads? They'll make it happen. They'll even manage your social media so you can focus on what you do best. Beyond.0 Creative is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau and Google Premier Partner. They're the real deal. If you're ready to take your online presence to the next level, visit beyondocreative.com. That's BIONDOCREATIVE.com or call 267-362-WEB1, Web 1, to discuss your project now. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Morrow Flooring, hardwood, laminate, vinyl, tile, and carpet, military first responder discount. Tommy, we had him as a guest on a podcast. You can get your flooring done by a real American hero.
Yeah, and he's on time and on budget.
Yes, he is. He will beat any price. Bring a quote, an estimate, whatever you have. Tommy will beat it, 100% guaranteed. You have our backing on that one.
And he'll be there himself.
Absolutely. You can get a real American hero do your flooring for you. Well, that was interesting and informing. That was one of our sponsors from AR Law, Christy Adams. If you're in the Pennsylvania area, specifically the Philadelphia area, please go check out AR Law if you're in need of a personal injury lawyer.
Yeah, it's very well laid out from her perspective.
Right.
We had a couple of good questions for her in there. And
hopefully that gives our audience a little bit of an idea and a perspective of what the third-party culprit defense is and what hung juries are. But she mentioned something in her conversation, which is a great segue for us.
The dog bite.
The dog bite. So apparently John O'Keefe has injuries, and you can see up here on the screen right now that an expert testified are consistent with a dog attack.
Yeah, and clearly that, you can see the scratches or bites. I maybe a combination of that. I know I was attacked by a German Shepherd as a young child. I was 16 years old. And if the dog was eating my legs while I was laying on the ground, and so I can empathize and recognize the extent of what happened. The dog almost took my eye out of my head, and I'm looking at this scene for the first time, by the way, and I'm wondering, that doesn't look life-threatening, although certainly would be injurious. Right. And a great lawsuit, by the way, for your attorney.
Correct. Absolutely. So looking at this picture, in death, this is a few days later, you have rigor mortis that sets in. So there's some swelling, if you can see, like the lower back, that could be consistent with, the process of the body decomposing within them, rigor mortis and whatnot. But taking a look at these attacks, so the prosecutor is trying to say that these injuries are from the broken tail light, which you could see some on his chest also. So how did that tail light, like, did it just attach to his body and just keep ripping him apart as it went by?
Yeah, this is not indicative of that type of injury. I'm looking at this up top here, and the white gauze.
Right.
So are we looking at 2 separate days? I would imagine.
No, this is post death. So probably they probably incubated him or put something in his mouth. That's what the gauze was there for, or to keep his mouth shut because he's dead.
I've never actually. I mean, I've seen many dead people, and I've been in the morgue, but I've never seen this.
It's probably quite possibly for the pictures and not to have a gruesome photo of an open mouth or whatnot.
And what's on this chest? It looks like some kind of cardiac.
Yeah, they probably tried to revive him.
So then this would be this would be at the scene.
No, he was picked up by the ambulance and taken to the hospital. So they probably worked on him in the ambulance, put him up. You're getting into the weeds here with this.
I'm a little concerned because I'm seeing a lot of different images here now. I'm thinking this is in the hospital where they're trying to save his life.
Right. Yeah. This is. Don't worry about the cords and the gauze. That's nothing to do with what we're looking at here. Mainly, we just want to focus on the wounds that, to me, look like consistent with an animal attack. Correct?
Absolutely consistent with a shepherd animal. Yes. But at the same time, I see more ripping and tearing than I do like clenching. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Sort of like, so if you've ever had, I don't know if you've personally experienced dog bites, have you? You have. Most dogs don't just grab and hold unless they're trained to do that, like a police shepherd might be, or a Rottie. But they basically, dogs bite and rip.
Sometimes. Right.
Yeah, well, because it's a wrestling. It's usually a struggle going on. The dog's pulling you in a direction.
A lot of times the dog will lock and they won't rip. What happens is the person panics and pulls their arm. They pull their arm back.
So then what I'm getting, why I'm mentioning that is this looks like more he's in the throes of fighting with the dog rather than the dog is killing him.
Right. So the expert testified that these are consistent with bite marks, with the front jaws, the canines.
The canines teeth, yes.
So, we're getting into this and we're trying to show the audience. And again, there's so many different pieces of this. Stay with us. That's why we have a lot of visual examples. It's very easy to go into the weeds and get caught up and probably get confused, but that's why we're here.
Well, because I'm tying it back to the actual cause of death right now. And I would definitely, if as a juror or as a criminologist, I would look at this and say, that's not the cause of death.
Right. I was definitely not the cause of death. Okay. So let's recap for the audience.
Yes.
So what we have here is a bunch of friends, including Karen Reed and John O'Keefe, the retired police officer who was murdered on January 2022, went to a bar, went to a house party afterwards at Brian Albert's house, who was a Boston police officer at that time.
As well as was O'Keefe.
Right, as well as O'Keefe. Several family members and friends were in this house. Allegedly, Karen Reed dropped O'Keefe off. He entered the premises.
And Karen Reed stayed in the car.
And Karen Reed stayed in the car. And what the prosecution is saying, she left, and in doing so, she hit O'Keefe as she was leaving, and she left him for dead. Now, what the defense is saying is she left, never struck O'Keefe. He never, when he entered the house, never came back out, and he was murdered inside the house, and his body was dropped off there. So what we're trying to do, is not only just create somewhat of a little bit of a timeline, introduce all the key players here, but we're also trying to give you some aspects of what the evidence is, some corruption, you might say. So
yes,
we're going to dive into that next.
Yes, and there's been a great cover-up from start to finish with this case. And one of the things that I would like people to remember is what we don't specifically know is there are a lot of ongoing text messaging messages that refer to these both sides of this, either innocence and or guilt. It can be inferred from the text messages.
I'm glad you brought that up. So as we spoke earlier, Jen McCabe and Karen Reed are at the scene when they find O'Keefe's body laying on the lawn under snow. So at that time, I believe right around 6:30 or 6:25, I don't have the exact time, she searched twice. How long does it take a body, Nicole, to die from hypothermia. So, and the issue with that is she also searched that at 2:27 a.m.
Correct.
Now, we have two different experts come in and testify, one for the prosecution and one for the defense. Now, the prosecution is saying at 2:27, that was the exact time, and there was a misspelling. Instead of HOW for Hal, it was HOS, S as in Sam. How long does it take for a body to die in the cold from hypothermia? That was searched at 2:27 a.m. from McCabe. Now, what the prosecution is saying is that Jen McCabe actually searched that at 6:30 in the morning. It just so happened that that internet box on her phone was opened up at 2:27 from her looking at something to do with cheerleading. And that when you open up a box, it's not what you search at that time, it's when the box was open that will record the time. Now, what the other expert is saying is, no, that was the old operating system. The new operating system will generate a timestamp for everything you search.
Every entry.
So
Correct.
now you have two different experts
Yes.
giving two different, again,
Right.
This is just the theme of this trial.
Right.
Once when you think you have something, the exact opposite is
Now,
compelled.
Jen McCabe, she is the
Sister-in-law to Brian Albert's wife. Brian Albert is the one who owns the house where all this took place. He's the Boston police officer.
And we're going on the theory that potentially Higgins, who was a house guest,
Right,
ATF agent,
right.
who had been flirting with
And
Karen,
Karen was the initiator.
and Karen was the initiator,
Right. She went after him.
right? And the husband, O'Keefe was. Were they married or just dating?
No, they're just dating for several years.
So basically husband and wife, but not married. O'Keefe goes in the house to confront,
Possibly. This is a theory.
to confront Higgins, the ATF agent, in the home of Albert, the Boston PD guy who works probably in a very close proximity with O'Keefe.
Correct.
All these names, people, you got to
Can we
track.
put up photo 5, please? Just to make it a little bit easier for the viewers and ourselves to keep track of everyone in the house. Again, very confusing. A lot of rabbit holes you can go into. So Brian Albert owns the house. Higgins, who would be Karen's Guma, right, side piece,
Right.
was present at the house. And this is a theory of why Karen didn't enter the house with O'Keefe, because she knew Higgins was in there.
Right.
And obviously that would be awkward.
So
this is a...
and meanwhile, they're both drunk.
Right, everyone's drunk. So this is we have an example of everyone inside the house that night that this murder took place. As you can see, Higgins was in there. Brian Albert, Nicole Albert are the homeowners.
And the McCabe's are guests.
Right, McCabe's are guests.
But one of them is
sister-in-law.
related to Albert.
Jennifer is the sister to Nicole. Again, you don't have to get in the weeds that much about the relationship.
Well, the reason I care about that is because why are they looking up? Why is Jennifer looking up how long does it take for a body to have die of hypothermia? When really, if she was just an innocent bystander in this whole death of O'Keefe, why is she so vehemently looking up stuff on the computer?
Two conflicting expert opinions. She did it at 2:27 a.m. that morning, which was right around the murder would have took place.
Right.
And the other expert says no, it was done at 6:30 in the morning when they discovered the body outside. So let's get into evidence collection and the possibility of corruption. And it's not even corruption at the very least. It's very poor police work.
Right.
Very poor police work. Okay, so this is photo number 8, little montage. The top corner, you can see O'Keefe and Karen Reed, much happier times.
Yeah, nice looking couple.
And from what I understand, it's the social media relationship that a lot of people portray. They looked like a happy couple. People were jealous of the relationship when, in fact, they weren't getting along. They're probably getting ready to break up anyway.
Yeah.
And
well, we've all had that type of thing.
Yeah, and people say that O'Keefe was ready to pull the trigger on that. They had no children together. They dated in college for a year or two. For a little bit as kids. They reconnected. They've been in a relationship for 2 years. O'Keefe apparently has 2 children. I'm not positive. I think he adopted his brother's kids or...
like a nice guy.
Yeah, we don't have to go into the whole, but And that was part of the thing. There's some disparaging texts from Karen that she's tired or doesn't want to have to deal with the kids anymore.
Okay, because she wants to
something
party.
along the lines.
She's a free spirit. She wants to get.
Yes.
She wants to still. Like, listen, she's flirting with the ATF agents.
More than flirting.
Well,
Yeah,
well, you know what I think. But anyway.
yeah, I think they had relations and biblically they laid down.
Biblical
Yes.
relations?
Yes.
That's
So-
cute. It's a nice way of putting getting laid, right?
Top right corner. So there's blood on the scene. So, obviously when you're a crime scene detective, and we all watch CSI, which mostly is nonsense, doesn't exist, they collected the blood in red Solo cups. Right?
Mm.
You ever hear that song, Red Solo Cups?
Yeah, I know. Red Solo cups.
I fill you up.
I fill you up.
Let's
Let's
make
have
a party. Right? Although this ain't the party you want to go
Not
to.
this night.
So-
There may have been other parties that they were at that were pretty good.
And now they're trying to say exigent circumstances. They need to get that. Let me tell you something. They probably could have time to go to Walmart and buy a crime scene kit or something rather than red Solo
Or Amazon,
cups.
have them
Yeah.
delivered.
Yeah, it would have had time. It wouldn't break down if you had to
And
wait
this is
another
a small
20
police
minutes.
department outside
It
of
is a small
Boston.
police
So, I mean, who knows what kind of this? They probably had 2 murders a year, man. It's usually husband and wife.
And
Which
side
could-
note, this is why you don't defund the police. You need to fund the police.
keep them funded.
We'll get rid of corruption. It'll make them more effective. This is what you want. You want trained, high-quality police officers because this is serious business. Defunding does the opposite.
Well, because in the end, a life is lost, and then they're looking to put people away for life.
yeah,
so,
we don't want innocent people in jail.
Yes.
It becomes a mess when you defund the police. But
Correct.
I digress.
Right.
So they used a snow blower to remove the layers of snow. Again, I was never at the crime scene.
That's a leaf blower, not a snow blower. Just for people that
leaf
are
blower.
just for people that are watching.
Blows.
It's a blow.
It's a blower.
Yeah.
Although I was the first cop in East Division to get a conviction from a lifted fingerprint. We did a program where
From
cops...
a snow blower?
No. Fingerprints.
Oh, okay.
We
Very
did a
good.
program where cops were allowed to start fingerprinting scenes. Pilot program in Philadelphia.
Oh, yeah. You mean
Yours
regular?
truly-
You mean regular patrolmen?
Yeah,
were
regular
allowed.
patrolman.
You didn't have to call the crime team
Correct.
the print analysis team.
I could do it.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So if I left a print somewhere right now, you could basically
Yes, I could
you
lift
could
it. Yep.
basically print pinch me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
fingerprint you.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know about the blower. I've never seen that. So that's highly questionable. And people are really going on about the brown paper bags. That's actually
Yeah, that's
there's
legit.
nothing wrong with it. That's what you're
That's-
supposed to
that's
do.
legit.
That keeps
Sterile.
organic material better. You don't want it in a plastic bag. So there's nothing
Right.
wrong with the brown paper bag.
Right.
Although getting it like shopping bag
if
is
you
not
don't-
something. It's not really a great look.
Yeah. It should say evidence
Yeah.
on the bag.
Call-
Just so.
It's a homicide. Call the district and have someone run out some bags or something.
Yeah.
The exigent circumstances, it wasn't enough to where it was going to degrade the evidence in 20 minutes.
No.
At this point, you've been
Right.
out in the blizzard for hours.
Yeah.
So that's very questionable evidence taking, and this is just indicative to the entire investigation. So we're going to introduce another player into this. And again, many rabbit holes to go down at different evidence, but since we're talking about the evidence collection, we're going to talk about the lead investigator, Michael Proctor.
So the main purpose of them not going with local Canton PD or any local prosecutor was because they wanted to seem to be removed and aesthetically approach this
Unbiased.
right? So that there was no tainting
Not influenced.
of the investigation.
Right.
So
yeah.
they went to the next level up and asked the state police to come in.
Right. And the exact opposite ends up
You
happening.
can't even say, no, you can't make this up.
No, you can't.
Wait a minute, slow down. Boston PD, Canton PD, even a county PD that might have been a local county could have stepped in, but
Right.
no, they go above that
Right.
to show a sense of clean hands.
Which is, it's the right call too. When you're a lower or smaller department, you don't have the means. You want to call in the state police to take this over, and especially when you have local police officers that are involved in this. Right?
And even federal officers, from what
Yeah,
I
and
ATF?
ATF agents.
Yeah.
So yeah, you want the state police involved. So step in, the lead investigator, Michael Proctor. Great. We have a state trooper. We're doing the right thing. Wrong.
And why is it wrong? Why is it wrong?
So-
Just because he's not fairly disposed to this woman,
Because
or because of something else?
okay, so right move. You want to contact the state
Right.
police. Smaller police department don't have the means, the personnel, or the equipment to properly investigate a homicide because this is a big case.
Yeah.
Someone lost their life.
You got a federal officer involved. You have two Boston
Correct.
PD guys involved, and a lot of family intermingling.
Yes, and you don't want, like you said, any kind of outside influence on the case. You want it to be clean. Yeah, you want someone that's actually going to do a good job and not be biased in any way whatsoever.
Right.
So that's why these departments will call in the state police, bigger budget, deeper pockets. They can investigate, these types of crimes.
And technically, there's no political connection normally.
Correct.
Either. Like there's no swaying something one way or another because of whether it's local politics or local nepotism. None of that should come into play. You bring in the state.
Correct.
Good.
Correct. So we get Michael Proctor, lead investigator in this case. So the problem is he is tied in, I believe, with Julie Albert, which is the sister-in-law of Brian Albert, who is the homeowner and the Boston Police Department officer.
Okay.
Right? So now Proctor knows Julie Albert, who's involved in this. She was, absolutely involved in the house when this happened, right?
She's a homeowner.
Correct. She's the sister of the homeowner.
Okay, the sister of the homeowner.
Yes.
Okay.
Again, people, a lot of names,
here. Yes.
So she's a sister of the homeowner.
And what's his relationship with her?
They're friends, I believe. Friendly, they're friends. Again, he should have stepped back and had another investigator take this case over, especially it being as high profile as it is and being a homicide. And there is a whole host of text messages that you can look up yourself. You just go Michael Proctor text messages and take a look for yourself. Don't take our word for it. Do your own investigating. You'll go down a rabbit hole. You'll be there for a while.
Yeah.
So he even says in one of his text messages, I'm paraphrasing, that he's a cop, not going to worry about him. Talking about Brian Albert, the homeowner.
In other words, he's a cop. I'm not going to worry about him. I'm not going to consider him.
Right, because he's a cop. Right.
But why didn't this guy investigate me?
Right. Dude, you should have been so lucky to have this guy on you.
Kidding me?
So you'd figure homicide. There's a house party. There's conflicting stories. Wouldn't you want to go in the house, take crime scene photos of inside the house? Because you want to rule everything out. Right? Didn't happen. Never even went in the house. I don't believe he interviewed them to begin with.
No, he probably focused solely on Karen Reed and how she was culpable in this whole thing. Is that how the whole thing starts? And then basically the trial begins from that assertion.
Right. Even you don't have to be a detective for a day to know that you should have went in the house and investigated. There's a lot.
Guy's got dog bites all over him. Never mind the fact that it was this guy's property. He should have went inside the house. And, what'd you see? What happened? We don't know. She ran over the... And then if 3 different people gave 3 different stories, you got something further to dig into.
You interview everybody that was associated with that right away.
On the block.
Yeah, right then and there, because you want your initial statements, because they're going to be different, and you don't give time to coordinate.
Correct.
Conspiracy.
Right.
This is day one rookie detective stuff.
Yes.
You don't have to be a genius for it. And the public, outside looking in, can see that this is shady. Again, gives us, the law enforcement, a bad name.
Okay, so now we're going to leapfrog a little bit here because unless we're going to do a 10-day series on this, this is for our people.
Right, so we're just going to stay with Proctor for a few more minutes. So they had text messages of his to his friends and family basically saying, and he had to read this out in court, how embarrassing. One of his friends said, is she hot? He says, yeah, she's hot, but she has no butt, and she's a wild C note. Right? Right.
Okay.
Another one was he had to read this out in court, which is so embarrassing that you would write this and now you have to read it out. I hope she kills herself.
Right. She's never going to kill herself. That girl.
No.
She's too narcissistic.
Loves herself.
Yes, she loves herself, and she's a cutie. I mean, let's be honest.
Not my speed.
Neither, because she's got no butt. So I'm not interested. We know Proctor is influenced, from the rip. He's got an influence because he's got a relationship to the sister-in-law in the house. Okay,
right.
So he's coming in not clean.
So let me segue to evidence again. Again, we're all over the place here because there's a lot and we're trying to break it down for you. And we want you guys to look into this. We're going to report on this more, do your own investigating, and there's a lot of information out there. Second trial just started this past Tuesday on the 22nd. So Proctor ignoring Brian Albert, the homeowner. So let's get into what Brian Albert has been up to. As you told me, which I didn't even know this fact, in 2018,
he redoes his basement.
Does an entire basement floor, which is expensive.
Family member did it.
Yeah, family member did it.
And the dog didn't leave the basement.
The dog didn't leave the basement. Now, Proctor has a 70-pound German Shepherd, which would be consistent with the wounds that O'Keefe had on his arm. Right. So that's why that's important. So not only does he have a brand new basement, it's only a couple years old when they're having this party, 4 years old. A couple months after the incident where O'Keefe has been unalived, he gets a new basement.
Yeah.
Who
completely new basement?
All that money that you just redone a new basement and you rip it out and put a complete new basement floor in.
I understand, and I didn't read it specifically, but I understand they took the cement out. Is what I'm aware of.
Yes. Yeah. So not only did they redo the basement, they took out the flooring. There's absolutely zero reason ever to rip out concrete unless there's kind of structural issues, which I highly doubt.
No.
Especially with the timing of all this.
And then he sells the house.
Right. He sells the house.
The house was not up for sale at the time of the slaying, let's call it.
Yep.
All right, because it is a murder, death, whatever. It was not up for sale. Within a couple of months, they redo the basement. Because, first of all, they had a little leeway time. The state investigator said, I'm not interested in the cops in the house.
Correct.
They didn't do this.
Correct.
According to the state investigator. So now he redoes his basement because the winds are making noise, I'm certain, right? And the state investigator is probably going, listen, on the side, I don't know what he did, but I know that if he was in the corrupt vein,
our theory,
which we understand that he obviously was acting in some corrupt manners by wishing the girl would kill herself. So no matter who you are,
disgusting.
That's disgusting to say, but it's a personal opinion.
Yeah.
We can all have them, but I have a feeling that there's some private conversations that would eventually take place between these individuals where he goes to the cops and say, listen, guys, they're starting to get close and they're coming for you. I recommend you do what you got to do.
Well, I'm glad you said that. So, Mike, one of the craziest details about evidence being destroyed. So the ATF agent, Karen Reed's side piece, well, he gets word that his phone is going to be confiscated, that he's going to get a do not destroy any evidence, preservation letter. So that day he drives out to a military installation. Smashes up his cell phone, and then he cuts up the SIM card and throws it in the trash. I mean, absolutely insane. You're telling me that's not any kind of corruption or there's something going on there? I mean, hey, listen, maybe he's caught having an affair. I don't know what his marital relationship is, but he's the one that's been texting with Karen Reed, the salacious sexual text messages. So who knows what's on there? Probably a lot more than what we know right now.
Okay, so
the day before he was supposed to surrender his phone, he didn't know that was going to happen, but they were going to come. He got tipped off. Why would you... And now, again, devil's advocate, maybe he's having an affair, and he was afraid that his wife would find out.
Well, that's a good answer.
Right?
It's a good answer. Was that his?
No.
And was there any evidence of it?
He had no answer to why. He didn't know why. He just felt like
time.
Yeah. He had no good
Have
answer.
You ever cut up a SIM card?
Never in my life.
In fact, I save my SIM cards in case there's some valuable information on that could get me.
I didn't even know iPhones had SIM cards.
I don't know either. To be honest with you.
I mean, you start looking at all these evidences. Again, she's guilty. She's not guilty. She's guilty. Like, you can just go back and forth. I don't know how any reasonable person can actually convict her with all of this conflicting
Let me
evidence.
ask you this proposal. You ready? This is going to spin your head. What if she intentionally brought him there to get tuned up?
I doubt that.
But why would she run him over, admit that she ran him over when she left? Because I feel... I'm going to throw a little monkey wrench here. I feel that she knew that they threw him behind the car and they told her to run him over on the way out.
Oh, man, you're way... I don't think
No,
that
and the reason I'm saying that is because why did she go home and then wake up at 4 or 5 in the morning, head back to the location and say, oh, there he is, I hit him? How?
Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's just, you can come up with 1,000 different theories. Again, I thought... I say the dog attacked him. He fell and hit his head, and they dumped his body. Yeah, they found his cell phone under him. And here goes more circumstantial evidence. So I believe...
They put the cell phone under him.
Exactly. I believe McCabe was calling his phone about 10 times at around 2 a.m. in the morning. I don't think she ever really called John O'Keefe, ever. So she's calling John O'Keefe's phone. Maybe he dropped the phone in the house during a struggle,
And they're
and
trying,
they're trying to find it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so when the body's recovered, his phone is under him. So very weird. How do you drop from an injury and it can happen, but how do you fall directly on top of your phone?
And why would somebody who you just had a conversation with call it 10 times?
Yeah.
Unless they were searching for it because they couldn't find the phone when they dumped you, and they knew that the phone would be a tracking device.
Right. And right around 2:30 in the morning, 3 a.m., somewhere around there, I don't have the exact times, Brian Albert, the homeowner, the Boston cop, called Higgins and vice versa several times. And one of the phone conversations lasted for 27 seconds. And they both testified that it was butt dials. There's no conversations. Just so happens. I mean, the normal people and the trained investigators, it looked like they're starting to conspire to get their story correct.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
I mean, that's... Again,
now, where were they when the phones rang? Were they both at the same house?
No, they were different locations at that time. It was after 3 a.m., I believe.
So it was a couple... So they parted ways from the incident,
Correct.
The location of the incident. They part ways and they call each other. And they say, we're going to pin it on her.
It only lasted 27 seconds. The other phone calls were a couple seconds. But they're all butt dials, allegedly. They both
a lot of butt
testified
dialing going on.
And when McCabe called O'Keefe's phone, the 10 times, it was inside the residence.
The phone was?
Yeah.
Both phones?
Yeah, Jim McCabe and O'Keefe's phone.
Correct, yeah. Yeah. Why would you call someone's phone that's in the house?
Right. Again, it's the geofencing. His phone was outside. It's the residence.
Yeah.
But, McCabe lives elsewhere, but she was there when she made those 10 phone calls. Why are you calling him 10 times? If he never came into the house, which is what they're saying, right? So they're saying that O'Keefe never came into the house. Why would you be calling someone that you're not really that interested in 10 times at 2:30 in the morning? Again, she said it was an accident. It was a butt dial.
10 of them.
10 of them.
A lot of butt dialing going
10 of
on.
them. To a guy you don't talk to on the phone regularly.
Yeah.
There's no reason for you. You just happen to butt.
How do you butt dial someone without opening your phone?
10 times.
You have to open your phone first.
I've done it. Yeah,
you've done it to me.
Yeah.
But you've had your phone open when it happened.
Yeah, not 10 times.
No. And then generally, the guy would have woke up from the dead. I mean, you could wake the dead up with 10 phone calls at 2 in the morning, So apparently, he's either already dead.
So there's a lot. Again, you have her texting or looking at 2:27 a.m. How long does HOS does it take for a body to die from the cold? It could be argued that it actually happened at 6 in the morning or 6:30 in the morning. You have her calling the phone 10
What time
times.
did they eventually discover the body?
Right around 6:30, in between that time, 6 a.m.
So is that when?
In the wintertime, it's still pitch black at 6 a.m. up north.
Yeah.
In a blizzard.
Yeah.
Whiteout conditions. So again, how the hell does she find his body under snow that quick in the dark? There's so many. It's just, were they all conspiring together? It's
yes.
I
Yes.
think that
That's
I
your
think
answer.
that'd be almost impossible without uncovering that. All those people, were they all conspiring? It looks like it. There's a lot of evidence saying that they conspired in the house. There's no evidence that she was conspiring with them. But you don't know. You had Jen McCabe, I believe another family member, and Karen Reed in the vehicle driving around looking for O'Keefe at 5:30.
Yeah. If we looked at the evidence objectively right now that we both know, and it's in total, I say he's killed in the house, in the basement, or there was a fight in the house.
Colonel Mustard.
Fight in the house. They ended up in the basement. Come on down here. Let's talk about it in the basement. They go downstairs. A tussle begins. The dog jumps in. Anytime the master of the house has a tussle with anybody in that house, the dog will jump in on the master's defense.
Yeah.
The dog starts pulling on this guy, and maybe he goes down in a huff and hits his head hard. Or the guy kicks him in the forehead and his head slams the floor. I mean, you got to realize they're drunk, so their balance is way off. 2, the dog is reacting to a situation like any dog would to protect the owner. Like, I mean, your dog would do the same thing to me if I went to grab you.
Yeah.
Right? I'd be lucky to come out alive.
My Roddy that I'm not
Your
allowed to
Roddy
see.
that you're not allowed to see. We understand. We all went through that today. It's trauma. But the bottom line is this. He dies in the house. They take him outside, and then she runs him over on the way out.
Correct. So he had a looked like a black eye, injuries to the back of the head, and then looks to be animal wounds on the arm.
Yeah. And I've seen many a car accident. I've never, thankfully, been the reason.
I've been ran over twice.
I had a foot run over. Okay, so that's my claim to fame. My foot got run over. Nothing happened. God damn it. Yeah, nothing seriously significantly happened. Maybe it should have been my head. Things may have changed. I don't know. But the long story short is, those injuries are not indicative in the snow of getting all these torn marks. We know it's deep.
So let me give you some more circumstantial evidence.
Here we go.
The former police chief of Canton, which is where this house is at, he's a police chief and friends with Brian Higgins, the ATF agent, who was the side piece to Karen Reed,
right,
her lover, or soon-to-be lover. He happens to be driving by the crime scene a week later and finds some pieces of the tail light. So you're telling me a whole week goes by, crime scene's been processed, and this guy just happens to find a crucial piece of the tail light.
The police chief.
The police chief of Canton.
And what does that spur?
I believe, I'm not sure if that's the piece that had it, but they found a single strand of hair from John O'Keefe on the taillight. At this point, you know, it sucks for me to have to say this, but I believe there's corruption, and it really makes me question the evidence that they're putting forth. For real, I can't, in good faith.
Who do we think that they're protecting?
They're protecting the cops. They're protecting the cops. They're protecting Brian Albert and the ATF agent Higgins.
Yeah, because if I look at this case...
Again, that's my opinion.
Right. I look at this case and I say, if she did kill him, it wasn't intentional. If she did. If she was the sole... if she was sole killer. Like if this wasn't a...
I believe that too. It was an accident.
Correct. And she was drunk and being drunk, she fled the scene.
I remind you,
that makes sense.
When they find the body in front of the paramedics and the two other women, she said 4 times, "I hit him, I hit him, I hit him."
Correct, because she was drinking and she didn't know whether she hit him or not. That's my opinion. Now let's make believe she did hit him. She's still not a quote unquote.
It's voluntary manslaughter.
Yeah, and go as high as you want with the murder charge because she was drunk. But there's no way those injuries take place.
I agree. I'm more of the mindset now that the murder took place in the house. There's so much evidence against the people in the house. Again,
in total.
Totality of the circumstances.
Right.
In total. That's why this case is so compelling and has gripped the Northeast nation, especially that small town.
Now, the piece of the taillight that they find, right? I'm going to ask you this question as an investigative person. Is it possible they took it off of the car?
100%.
Wait, let me finish. Took it off the car the next day or two?
Yes,
and
100%.
Then said, "Oh, we found it here." Oh, and by the way, they grabbed a piece of her hair and wrapped it around it and said, "Oh, wow,
his hair. Yeah.
How convenient. How does her hair end up on the tail light?"
His hair.
His hair. Oh, another simple answer to that, right?
There we go. So now I've seen other pictures where it looked to me like there was more pieces of the tail light still there. So they impounded the car. They could have done whatever they wanted to do. It's very suspicious that a off-duty police chief of Canton Police Department drives by a week later and finds evidence at the crime scene. You know, and then if he's hit, they're trying to say they had experts come in from ARCA, some kind of accident reconstruction company, saying that she hit him, he spun around, fell back several feet, his head on the curb. That's how he ended up where he was at. How does all the pieces from the tail light, they stick to him?
Well, hold on. That's the new theory?
That's one of the...
So he hits his head, bleeds out with no blood. Basically no blood at the scene.
No, there's blood.
Very little.
The red solo
very little blood. Very little blood at the scene.
There's blood.
Your head is going to bleed.
Yeah.
Your head is going to bleed like a faucet.
Well, he had a head wound. I mean, we're not disputing that.
No. I don't see enough blood at that scene. I don't see enough blood. You've seen head wounds.
Yeah.
I mean, the street gets covered with blood.
Yeah, I'm. You're right. So
you bleed out.
You're trying to say the majority of the blood would be in the concrete that has been
removed.
Yeah, or in the carpet. Yeah, I agree with that too.
Yeah, because you bleed out, you bleed out.
A good tip for our listeners: just not for anything criminal.
No.
If you get blood on your clothes, put peroxide on it. It'll take the blood right out.
Even the other that sperm that they have that lays
Well,
around.
I don't know about sperm, but I'm talking about blood.
You know what I'm talking about. You know, the aluminum, what's it called? Do you put the aluminum on it and it has it detects the blood?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, we'll look it up.
No idea. All right.
Your blood has an afterbirth that sticks around no matter what you do.
Gotcha.
Bleach can't get rid of it.
Peroxide does.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then that's the answer.
So here goes some of the text messages between Karen Reed and Brian Higgins. What do you like about me, Brian Higgins said.
Yeah, right. Okay. I feel like you're from my neighborhood and you're hot.
You're hot. This is Karen Reed while she's involved with,
Could you imagine
John O'Keefe.
girls telling you you're hot? I'd be over there.
I've seen him. He ain't that good looking.
He's not that good looking
No.
either. No.
No.
Well, you know what? It's something she can't. She doesn't have it. So
Yeah.
she's trying to get it.
And then let's check out the other. And there's a whole host of different text messages that you can look at that are a little more salacious than these. Hey, we're single and we don't have
What
kids.
did I tell you?
We
What
can
did
do
I
whatever we
tell
want.
you?
Yep.
I told you that from the beginning.
And there's a text message where she just says, come over to my house. So I do believe that they got together and did what they had to do, although Higgins testified that it was only a kiss 2 weeks prior.
Oh, I think it was a full-on.
Yeah. So now we have motive for Brian Higgins, and we have motive for John O'Keefe to go in the house to confront him, like you said.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of
Listen,
evidence.
dude, you came to my house, you tapped my old lady, you're not doing it again.
Yep. Yeah.
Maybe.
Fight happens.
Yeah.
I don't think they intentionally set out to kill this guy. He got it. The dog attacked him. He probably banged his head, and that's it. He was dead. They knew he was dying, and they dumped him.
Yeah. Rather than
they
save his
panicked.
life.
Yeah, rather than fix it and do what you have to do.
Call the police and say, hey, there's an accident. We had a fight in the house.
Yeah, it happens.
It happens.
So,
Why'd you fight? Because he didn't want me tapping his old lady anymore, and I can understand, but it's too bad. I mean, they opened the door to this relationship.
so I'm gonna ask you a question. There was a poll done on Court TV, and what do you think the results were? How many do you think were not guilty? In fact, hold on. Let's go. How many do you think, percentage-wise, for guilty of Karen Reed?
Okay, so 1 of 100, you mean?
100. The percentages.
I would say 37%.
No, 6. So this is out of 10,000 people
Okay.
took this Court TV poll. 6% think she's guilty. 7% think she's guilty of manslaughter. So that's 13%
Right.
think she's guilty. Not guilty, 82%. 82%.
Wow.
And a hung jury, 5%. Don't know.
So, remember you sent me the first text message? She's
Yeah.
guilty.
She's guilty.
And then well, there you go. So
When you dive
I
into
was
this-
just being on the lib side of it
Yeah.
because a lot of people are going to, she's guilty. It's because they didn't like her. They didn't like her attitude. They didn't like that she was a sexy vixen, going after men. Women find that very reprehensible,
Yeah.
even though that's what they, I don't want to say anything else. I don't want this edited out.
Yeah. So, again. So what are you saying?
No, just women tend to be the
Aggressors wider in their marriages.
Correct.
I believe that too. I believe
Yeah.
women cheat more than men when they're married later in life.
correct.
Than the other way around.
Well, it's facts. It's facts. So,
No, it's facts. Mike Dowd said it. It's definitely facts.
TikTok says it.
Yeah, TikTok says it. So it's facts.
Yes.
So what we have here is a salacious trial of our century, right? And you have the entire Canton neighborhood, Canton area has been wrapped up. It's like a circus outside. Apparently there's a YouTuber called Turtle Boy. Like, this case is everything. He's riling up people about this case. Like, he really put this on the map. He's got a lot of followers. They have hundreds of people outside of the first trial every day.
Yeah.
And the majority of them is free Karen. Now, what I don't like about it is they're harassing the witnesses, and I don't understand why the judge didn't step in. And they're harassing them with phone calls. And when I say witnesses, the people that were in the house and family members of people that were in the house. So, and they're calling their jobs. They're showing up at their jobs. They're showing up at their houses. You killed O'Keefe, which
Right.
I don't understand why the judge never got involved, because it's witness tampering.
Sure it is.
Even if you didn't conspire with Karen Reed to do it. But this case, like I'm saying, the reason why I'm pointing this out is case has everything. everything.
And you weren't interested when I first sent it
No,
to you.
I didn't want to look at it. I figured it was nonsense.
But it's
Yeah.
really heavy. Yeah.
It really gripped me. I didn't know much about it, and it didn't take long for me to.
Well, as a
really
cop,
go down the rabbit
we
hole.
don't get interested in homicide cases.
Correct.
As a general rule, correct? Well, another homicide, they'll figure it out. The guy did it. The girl did it. It's over.
Right.
But when you see something that twists and turns like this, and then you add a layer of corruption or 2 layers of corruption into it, it gets intriguing.
Yes.
For many reasons. We want to figure out who's corrupt, and we want to figure out, is it the female vixen that should be the victim? Because oftentimes they get played as a victim rather than
Correct.
as the abuser.
doer, yeah.
The abuser.
Yeah.
And which we know in many cases it's at least 50-50. I mean, from my experience as a police officer and in life, I'm sure yours is probably similarly situated. I don't know.
Right.
That the female is at least equally responsible for the behavior.
Yeah, a lot of time. Absolutely.
Yeah. But my thought is that at least 50% of the abusers and victims, 50% of the women are at least of the abuser in the relationship, whereas it's painted as 90% of
Right.
it is
I don't.
men.
Yeah, I don't know if it's 50%, but it's high. And the reason why we can't get a percentage is men don't report it.
Men don't report it.
Yeah, and we discussed
I know I
this
didn't
before.
for years. I didn't
Yeah.
do it for years. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's all kinds of different ways to be abused,
Yes.
verbally and mentally. I think women play the head games.
Financially,
Yeah,
and-
financially.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll never really know the true figures because men, especially physical assaults, men aren't reporting it because they're embarrassed of it.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
and
That I
they're-
stuck around to be smacked, beaten, had the channel changer thrown at me, the beeper thrown at me,
Correct.
the phone thrown at me, scratched and pulled, my nuts kicked. I mean, these are things that have happened to us over the years. And listen, some of it may be deserved, but physical abuse is never.
No,
It's
and at
never
the end of
really-
the day, you should remove yourself from the situation. But it's easier said than done.
Yeah. And then when
as
we
we
do
see.
remove ourselves, we're cowards and we don't want
Right.
to. We don't want to stand there and face the issue.
Right.
Well, I don't want to get beat up right now, and I don't want to. Certainly don't want to touch because then an injury would elicit the fact that I maybe.
Yeah, even just defending yourself,
Defensive.
you can get in trouble.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's always, they always take the woman's side. Again, like we're talking about, men are embarrassed. They don't want to talk about it. It's a shame. And if you're in that kind of situation, you should really talk to somebody.
Yeah, and I just
remove
wonder-
yourself from it.
And I wonder if that was going on in the. Why I bring it up? I wonder if that was going on in the O'Keefe because their relationship
Right.
was not the Instagram as you said.
So apparently, I don't think there's any reports of physical, but from what I understand, she was very possessive and angry, and they appeared to drink a lot, like a lot of cops and their wives do,
Yeah, of
because of
course.
the stresses of the job. And there was an incident where they were just away together in Cancun or Riviera Maya. I'm not sure exactly where,
let's say
and
Cancun.
drinking heavily. And he was giving a hug to it was I think a wedding. He gave a hug to his sister's like longtime friend. And and then she's across the room, effing her up and down. What are you doing? Got in her face, and she apologized afterwards and addresses it that I was out of line. I should have done that. I was drinking, but I don't think that the physical aspect of it, but there might be mental and again, when you bring the drinking in it, and they seem to be drinking a lot.
Listen, there was a lot of
arise.
debauchery. Let's be
Yes.
honest. I mean, these text messages indicate that there was a lot of sexual promiscuity going on.
Right.
And I think if you take that in total in any relationship, it can create either a wonderful situation where everybody's happy, or a very uncomfortable
Right.
situation where no one's happy. And that may have been the way this thing
Right. Again,
unravels.
as we discussed, I think, and I believe he died in the house. I don't believe it was intentional.
At the
Right.
hands of her lover, or at the hands of somebody else? Is an intermediary, meaning
Again, it's all speculation. We don't know because the police in this case Proctor didn't do his job.
Right.
Go into that house. If they went into that house at 6 a.m, you might have found evidence. There might have been blood stains. And that's it. It changes this whole.
You mean a new floor doesn't?
At the very least, we could have cleared this case up and have definitive, evidence that either something happened in the house or the house is clean. Nothing happened.
Yeah. To be continued.
And mind you, we'll give you one more piece of information.
Go ahead.
While this whole thing is going on their lawn at 6:30 in the morning, Brian Albert and his wife and the dog Chloe, who's a German Shepherd, probably barks a lot when there's shepherds do. Never woke up. They slept through most of the police interaction and the ambulances outside the house. They never came outside.
To their own property.
Correct.
Did they have a ring doorbell?
Never came outside.
Did they have a ring doorbell?
No.
Okay.
Yeah. Never. Don't matter. Your ambulance is out front.
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's a blizzard.
You think the police would have knocked on the door? Hold on.
Again,
There's a body on your lawn?
if they would have did this, we might not be having this conversation.
And there you go.
And there you go. This
To
will
be
be continued. Absolutely. Thank you for your patience. I know this was a lot.
Oof.
I want you guys to not take our words for it. Really check this case out. Give yourself some time.
But come back to us so we
You're
can
going to
update
go down a
you.
rabbit hole. Yeah, we'll be reporting on this throughout this new trial. Again, thank you very much. This is Good Cop, Bad Cop, Rolling Unfiltered. This episode is sponsored by New Solutions Network, AR Law, PA State Rep Martina White, Biondo Creative, Morrow Flooring, and Pops McCann Whiskey.